Welcome back to the session. We have had a very exciting morning session, and this afternoon we are going to anticipate even more exciting debates. So we feel that it would be very good if we can be open, and then we can brainstorm on things, on different issues, and we can debate, and that is where maybe new alternative ideas could come up. So for this afternoon session, we will divide into two parts. The first part is on the theme of livelihood and commoning. And then the second part will be on building alliances. So we will have the speakers from the first session speak, and then we can take some questions and answer questions. But maybe we don't take all of them, and then we will have a tea break. Then we go into part two, and then we can combine the discussions for both parts. So I would like to first invite Francine Mestrum from Belgium to talk to us. She holds a PhD in social sciences, and her research concerns all topics concerning social justice, globalization, poverty, inequality, and universal social protection. And she currently is working on a project for social commons. And so please.
Okay, thank you very much and good afternoon. I do hope it is not too great of a shock after the very interesting morning session we had. I would like to take you on a very short trip to another topic of sustainability, which is social justice, and which is a crucial element of sustainability. It concerns directly the sustainability of life of people, but also life of societies, of our collective being, and of course, life of nature. Now, social justice is a very vast concept. It includes a lot of things. It includes equality, gender equality, migration, etc., etc., etc. But one crucial element within that social justice is precisely social protection. I will explain you what I mean by this, because I'm not referring to the old welfare states, but we will come to that. I would briefly like to mention a couple of points. The why question is, why is it so difficult to discuss this? I will point to the fact that we lack theories on social protection. I would like to briefly explain how the whole topic today is in the hands of the right. And I think we have to claim back as progressive forces universalism, social commons, and most of all, system change. So I would like to explain how social protection, the way that we see it, the way that we work on this, in the network that we have with global social justice, how social protection can be a transformative project. And then I would like to come to my conclusions. Now, there is something very strange. I have been working for years on this topic. And many, many times, within the left, within progressive forces, it is ignored. And it is very difficult to put on the agenda. And then you receive a lot of reasons. Oh, but this is a reformist project. Oh, but you have this in Europe because of your colonialism. Oh, but yes, this is not what we are working about. Now, these arguments are wrong. Not totally wrong, but let us say for 80% wrong. And we should be aware of the fact that for all progressive forces, sustainability and the protection of people should be our main objective. I mean, anti-capitalism is not an end in itself. If we say we are against neoliberalism, if we say we are against capitalism, it is because we want a better life for people and for the planet, do we add today. And so I want to put as my first claim that if we want to work at environmental justice, which has been discussed here in the past days, we also have to work on social justice, and both go hand in hand. You cannot work for one without working for the other. They are intrinsically linked to each other. Now I come back to the arguments of reformist colonialism, and of course it is true that after the Second World War, there was a fear of communism, and it was a bit easier in Europe to fight for social rights and economic rights. But please do never forget that from the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century, there were very hard social struggles. People have died for their economic and social rights. So please do never forget this. So if I say 80% of all these arguments are wrong, I'm referring to the social struggles, and I'm referring to the fights of concrete people who wanted a life in dignity. And we should neither forget that however imperfect, however reformist the welfare states in Europe were, they also have, to a large extent, decommodified labor. Not totally, but to a large extent. We have trade unions, we have collective bargaining, and workers are not isolated, or were not isolated anymore vis-à-vis their employers. What I want to claim today, in order to think, to reflect on a new kind of social protection, is that it can be indeed a transformative policy. I'm not going into the details of the lack of theorization. I just want to point out that I'm not talking about poverty. I mean, this is since 30 years now, the World Bank put poverty on the agenda. This had nothing to do with poor people. Nothing. It had everything to do with the human face for structural adjustment. It was a purely neoliberal policy. So this is not what we want. We want to go beyond poverty reduction, because people are not born poor. People are made poor. And we have to prevent that people are made poor. So we have to avoid the poverty. And you do not do that with poverty policies. You can only do that with social protection. You can only do that with a policy that goes beyond that poverty and that acts before people become and are made poor. But we do not have many theories on social protection. We have a lot of theories, philosophical and economic theories on poverty. I'm not going to go into the details. I just wanted to say that what you see in the last point, the aim of social protection is to destroy markets, to avoid that markets determine the life of people. That's what it is about. Now, as I said, the World Bank has put poverty on the agenda in 1990. It has since then, because of the many criticisms, it has since then changed to social protection. But again, this has nothing to do with social protection. There's a very paradoxical situation today. It has never been as high on the international agenda as now. Yet at the same time, social protection has never been so threatened. All our economic and social rights are being dismantled. And yet everyone speaks of social protection. They have changed the meaning, and that is what the World Bank is doing all the time. It gives a new meaning to words. And then we speak about poverty, and we speak about social protection, and people are not aware anymore of the fact that for these neoliberal forces, it means something different. Now, there are two reasons to claim it back. First of all, the precarity of life. More than half of the world population is poor. And right-wing social protection, I'm not going to enter into details here, but it's the same in the European Union, it's the same with the discourse of the World Bank. Their social protection is at the service of markets, at the service of growth, at the service of productivity. So it is urgent, I think, for the left to develop its own philosophy on social protection and social justice beyond the welfare states of the 20th century. We have to think of a new system for the 21st centuries. I would like to launch 3 ideas that can help us to do this. First of all, universalism. I think yesterday we had the presentation of this book on pluriversity. That is very important because we're all different. We are all different, and therefore we are all equal. And we are all equal because we are all different. And we have to respect that diversity. We have to cherish that diversity. But we can only do that if on top there is a framework of universalism that says we are all equal. We have the same rights. The way that you will make these rights concrete can be different. It will be different in China, it will be different in Europe, it will be different in Africa. But we are equal and we have the same rights. The second idea is social commons. Now, I have a first very pragmatic reason to look at social protection as social commons. And the first reason is that when I talk to young people about social protection, they turn away. They say, oh, this is something of the past. This is not for us. This is something of the 20th century. And then I start talking about social commons, and all of a sudden they listen. So a way to talk to people and try to convince them of the importance of their economic and social rights is to speak about social commons. And the second reason is more substantial. They are our rights. Our economic and social rights are our human rights. And we have to claim them as being ours. And we have to decide on them. Not someone else, not the World Bank, certainly not, even not the UN. We have to decide on it. So within that framework of universalism, we have to come back to the national and to the local level to see how we can make these rights concrete, how we will put them into practice. And that will differ from one country, from one community to another. And the third idea is system change. If you reflect on social protection, if you reflect on your rights, if you reflect on the environment, then very soon you can see that you need to do more, because just think of the right to health. If you take it seriously, you have to think of not of curative healthcare, but of preventive healthcare, which means you have to stop Monsanto to put toxic pesticides on the market. We have heard the example here a couple of times in the past days of the plastic bags. Now, instead of saying to people, you should not use plastic bags, I think we should do what Professor Wen said this morning, try to incentivize companies, not to say you cannot produce anymore, but give incentives, talk to them, convince them that they should not produce plastic bags. I mean, there are a lot of things that we can do. The most obvious thing is housing. We need social housing, insulated housing. So there are many things that you can do in making your social and economic rights concrete that will at the same time change the system. This is a long-term project. This will not be done tomorrow, but you can do it. And I think it is very important that we start to convince people with material progress, not with moralizing. It doesn't work. It doesn't work in Europe, at any rate. It doesn't work. So you should not take the airplane. You should not use your car. People don't care. But give them something better and they will do listen. I come to my conclusion, I finish. I also do want to say that if we want to be serious about economic, social, and environmental rights, from within the progressive forces, we have to think of emancipation. What it is all about is to emancipate people, to free people from capitalism, to free people from neoliberalism, to free labor from capitalism. That is what it is all about. And there you have a very clear difference between the right and the left. So a very obvious thing is obviously that for political parties, if they want to win the elections, it is best that they have a program for promising social and economic rights. It's the best way to win the elections. It is about building citizens' power, obviously. So what I want to underline is that we do not have to start with capitalism first and try to abolish it and do away with it. Start the other way around. Know that it is a long-term project, but you can step by step. I think you can change the system, and it is, as I said, social justice, environmental justice go hand in hand. And it is a matter of sustainability, not only of nature, but of people and of societies. All of societies have been eroded by neoliberalism. So we have to restore our societies. We have to protect people. All people need protection. All people, all over the world. And there are only two ways to give protection. One way is with the military and with police and with violence. The other way is with the rights, economic, social, cultural, environmental rights. So that is my plea. Thank you.
Thank you.